Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we're gonna learn acids, bases, pH, and pOH. Like, what does each of these terms means, and how are they interrelated to each other, and what are the most important concepts and theories behind this. So let's dive deep into it. So first of all, the acids. So from a chemical way, how do we describe acids? I know you probably will think, okay, so acids just taste sour. It has a pH that's lower than 7, and it will turn red when it's face some like the chemical papers or something. I mean, all of these are right. But in this video, we're just gonna focus on like in the chemical, like micro level. So then how do you define the acids? Well, acids basically just means that this. So it means that the hydronium ions is greater than the hydroxide ions. So remember, the hydronium ions and the hydroxide ions, both of them will exist in both acids and bases, but just by different amounts. They have like different ratios, and when the amount of concentrations of hydronium ions is greater than the concentrations of hydroxide ions, which means there's this solution is an acid solution, like acidic solution. Okay, and so for bases, you might be guessed it, it's when the hydroxide ions is greater than the hydronium ions, or more accurately, it's the concentration of the hydroxide ions is going to be greater than the concentration of hydronium ions. Did I say that right? Hydroxide ions is greater than the hydronium ions? Okay, I think it's right. Okay, so then another really important formula for us to remember, like you have to remember for your next test or quizzes, is this. So hydroxide ions times the hydronium ions is going to give us this. It's always going to be this, which is the equilibrium constant. And we will write it in kW just for expression, an expression of it. Okay, so remember this is a constant, which means that this will never change. No matter what chemical reaction are you doing right now, it's never going to change. It's a constant. Okay, and so what is pH? Well, pH, by literally meaning, it just stands for parts hydrogen. Okay, and so pOH, in other hand, what does it stand for? Well, it's parts hydroxide. And so pH, how do we calculate it? pH is basically negative the log of protons, or the hydrogen ions, and the concentration of hydrogen ions is going to be 10, so the negative pH. And this is you just basically doing everything by the math. So when you have this expression, you have this formula, you just divide by each side by -1, and you move the -1 to this side, and this -1 gets canceled out, and then you for each side you use base of 10, so then you just cancel out this log right here, so then it gives you the ultimate formula below it. Okay, and so for the pOH, which stands for the parts hydroxide, it's going to be negative log of OH minus. Okay, so basically the same thing, but the numbers or the values you're going to plug in is different. And using the same thing, like the math in here, you're going to get the concentration of hydroxide will be 10 to the negative pOH. Okay, and so remember a very important rule in here. When you're writing this on your test, what suffix should we round this to? Okay, because suffix in chemistry is a very important rule, and you have to follow it. So that's a little bit so for when we're applying to this suffix rules to pH and pOH, is kind of different, and it's kind of messy. A lot of things you have to remember depends on different questions and different scenarios. So what we're gonna do is that for simplicity, we're just gonna round it to the 100th place. Okay, so this is very I think it's a lot more easier to remember, and so yeah, so just remember the suffix is gonna be 100th place. And so ultimate last formula, but not least, pOH and pH, the sum of this, what will this be? Well, it will be 14. Because think about it in logic. We know by common sense the pH is always going to be less than 7 but greater than 0, right? And pOH is always going to be greater than 7 but less than 14. So what is the sum of these two things? So you probably know that the water have a neutral pH, which is 7. And so if we just like using 7 times 2, or the sum of 2 sevens, it will be 14. So I mean, that works in my mind to remember all of these formulas. So if you have your own logic in here, you definitely can use yours, but I'm just gonna showing you my shortcut way for this. Okay, so one last thing I would like to mention in here is that acids, it's always gonna donate the protons, and bases is always gonna accept the protons. Okay, so yeah, so all of this is the things that the relationship between acids, bases, pH, and pOH. So if you have these all formulas, write down, and actually write down in your mind, and then I think you're in a good shape for whatever the quizzes and tests you're gonna have coming next. And that's all for this video, and I hope you learned something from this video. And if you enjoy this video, please subscribe and leave some comments below. I would like to hear your thoughts. And that's all for today. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.